Being a mother is both a blessing, alhamdulillah, and one of the most overwhelming roles that we can be given in this life. And when you add to that marriage, work commitments, community responsibilities, sometimes it just feels like we can't balance all of the hats that we have to wear, or hijabs in our case. So today I wanted to go through 3 key reminders that can help you as a Muslim mother to find grounding in this journey. The first is to accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to be the mother of your child. He didn't choose anybody else. Out of every person in the world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that this child would be entrusted to you. And that means that He knows that you're the most capable, the most worthy, and the most equipped person for this task, even if you don't feel like it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Quran, He says that He doesn't burden a soul beyond what it can bear. So you might not feel like you're the perfect mother. You might not feel like this is something that you can fully bear. You might struggle with patience. You might struggle with energy and consistency. But perfection is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects of you. If He decreed that this child is for you, then He gave you the qualities and the capability that you need to raise them. He's not going to leave you without the skills, without the support, without the resources that you need along the way. And so when doubts start to creep in, remind yourself, Allah chose me and He makes no mistakes. The second reminder to keep in mind as you are on this journey of motherhood is that we are always reminded to try and create balance in our lives. But in reality, the concept of balance as we have learned it is a myth. Balance, as we have learned it, is a myth. We live in a time where society tells us that whatever we do, it's never good enough. If you excel in your career, people might say that you're neglecting your family. If you dedicate yourself to your children, people might tell you that you aren't ambitious enough and you've abandoned your personal goals. But the reality is that succeeding in one area often means sacrificing in another. And that's why it's so important to work on our expectations, especially the unrealistic ones. I remember hearing a quote by a very successful woman where she said that when you see me succeeding in one area of my life, I am inevitably failing at another, according to societal standards. Sometimes we feel like life is more than we can handle. But what's really happening is that we've placed impossible standards on ourselves. And so the impossible standards that we've placed on ourselves are impossible to handle. But perfection in parenting does not exist. There isn't one right way to be the best mom. Every interaction that you have with your child builds your relationship with them. And when we expect perfection of ourselves, which then translates to expecting perfection in others, which damages those relationships, we end up waiting for a moment that never comes. We get so caught up on the parent that we wish we could be that we miss out on leaning into the parent that we are. So instead of perfection, aim for ihsan. Aim for excellence, doing the best that you can. And excellence, ihsan, looks different for every parent. It depends on your mental state, it depends on your circumstances, it depends on the needs of your child, and it depends on the season of life that you're in. The trap that shaitan tries to convince us of is that if you can't be perfect, you're failing. If you can't do it perfectly, you might as well not do it at all. And this type of all or nothing thinking only makes us give up. So think about it. How often do societal pressures and the comparisons that we tend to compare ourselves to in society steal our peace of mind? Maybe you see a friend who on their Instagram packs Pinterest-worthy lunches for their child and you start to criticize yourself. Or maybe you look around at your messy living room and you feel like you failed as a mother. But ask yourself, are these the standards of Allah? Or are they standards that society has placed on me? And every time you notice yourself feeling overwhelmed, feeling angry, feeling incredibly self-critical, pause and consider, are my expectations impossibly high? Am I chasing an image instead of living in the reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for me? And then the final point and the final reminder for us to take on our journey in motherhood is to live your values and your purpose. When we say yes to something, we inevitably have to say no to something else. Every yes is also a no. And the opposite is true as well. Every time we say no to something, it allows us to say yes to something else. But the trick is figuring out what deserves the yes. When you say yes to a spotless house, you may be saying no to playing with your child. You may be saying no to getting the rest that you need. When you say no to scrolling on your phone late at night, you may be saying yes to the rest that your mind and your body needs in order to be your best tomorrow. So when we consider decisions through this lens, it allows us to be conscious of the choices that we're making and what those choices reveal about our priorities. Are your yeses aligned with your values as a mother, as a wife, as a Muslim? Or are they being driven by societal pressure, being driven by fear of judgment or the need for perfection? When we live our values, we need clarity. We can't live our values without clarity. So ask yourself, what kind of home do I want to build? What do I want my children to remember about me? What legacy do I want to leave behind for the sake of Allah? And once you have clarity, it becomes easier to filter out your yeses and your nos. And so to my sisters who are in the throes of motherhood and trying to navigate everything, remember that Allah chose you for this role and He equipped you for it. Let go of the myth of balance and release unrealistic expectations. Aim for ihsan, excellence, not perfection. And live your life with purpose, aligning your choices with your values, and remember that every yes is also a no. Motherhood is never about being flawless. It's about being present, being sincere, doing the best that you can, and trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the capability to do that. You are enough and exactly the mother of the child that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed you to be.